Sorry for the slower content these past few days regarding Inktober and all of that. Life got in the way again and I got busy. Not to mention that I've also been in a weird headspace lately regarding my artwork, as well as how I want to grow both as an artist as well as a content creator. I know if I want to grow and turn this into something I can potentially monetize off of, I need to improve my skills and do things that I wasn't comfortable with, and one of those things was digital art. I'm Ayasuna and I make videos, more specifically art videos, and I am also bad at digital art. While I did technically dabble in digital art that I made on a smartphone or old tablet, I really didn't start taking it seriously until like 2 years ago when I got my first Shuyan digital tablet. And even then, I wasn't really that consistent with digital art. I only really started taking it seriously this year when I started making YouTube content, as well as starting to stream here on Twitch. In fact, this footage was from my last live stream on twitch.tv/Ayasuna19. I tried to record the video live on stream, but my audio was definitely messed up, so I decided to re-record my voice over this footage to talk about an issue that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Now, I've been doing art for quite a while. I dabbled with traditional art for most of my quote-unquote art journey. I've used paints, oil pastels, chalk, charcoal, pens, inks, watercolors, acrylics, gouache, and many other mediums. I did baking, and I even dabbled in crochet and fabric art for a little while. But when it came to digital art, I definitely had no clue on where to get started. I always considered it as such a nebulous topic with so many different ways to achieve a certain look. I'm also someone who likes to pick up different hobbies at a time and then drop them within a few weeks if I lose interest. I remember getting my graphics tablet and being passionate about it for weeks, wanting to learn everything or read everything related to digital art, but once the excitement cools off, I didn't touch it for months. And that's pretty much what happened here. I can't really blame anyone but myself for my lack of progress because I just wasn't being consistent. I mean, consistency is key to pretty much any skill at life if you want to improve. No matter how many different guides that I would follow regarding coloring and layers, I always got confused, lost in the sauce if you will. I tried to copy other digital artists in terms of workflow and how they chose to color their characters, but nothing really felt right to me. In fact, it wasn't until I picked up digital art in the first place that I even thought about how I go about my own art process scientifically. And I think the part that I'm struggling with the most is just not really understanding the fundamentals as well as I thought I did. It wasn't necessarily the sketching or coming up with ideas to draw, it was how I would get those ideas executed into a final piece, which is what I was struggling with the most, especially when it comes to digital art. With traditional art, there's always some sort of limitation, whether it's the colors that you have at your disposal, other tools that you can use to help get certain looks, or even just the space that you have to work on. Those are finite resources. That's not the case with digital art. Really, the sky is the limit with your digital art. It mainly just depends on the type of software that you're using, but more often than not, there's ways that you can get around any perceived limitations. And for someone like me who has done traditional art for like most of their life, that was quite overwhelming, and a culture shock from how I normally would approach art. To better explain what I'm talking about, let's think about a famous painter. Oh, I know, Bob Ross. If you're a PBS kid like me, you likely heard about the joy of painting, and I definitely grew up watching it quite a lot as a kid. It's one of my many foundations as far as wanting to be an artist. At the beginning of each episode of his, he would go over all the materials that he would use to create a painting. Whether or not he primed his canvas, the types of brushes he used, and even the colors on his palette, whether that's phthalo blue, alizarin crimson, and of course, titanium white. Obviously, his videos were to serve as a guide for those who wanted to learn how to paint, which, given the time that he made those episodes, art education definitely wasn't quite widespread. He usually would start with an underpainting, then blocking in colors and shapes, and then working forward to add more details. And that's pretty much how I approach my own traditional artwork. Now, obviously, he was painting on a canvas, and he didn't have a lasso tool or a color selector, so if he wanted a certain shade, he would have to do the mixing himself. There was no lasso tool or Control Z. If he made a mistake, he would just simply have to go over it or work it into the original painting. After all, there are no accidents, only happy little trees. I guess the whole point that I'm trying to bring up is that Bob Ross was limited by the colors that he had on his palette, as well as the canvas itself, and with digital art, there's not really any sort of limit. Personally, I'm not really used to all the tools that I have at my disposal, and that makes learning digital art a lot more time-consuming. Traditional art forces you to learn from your mistakes faster, often at the cost of wasting or misusing supplies. Digital art gives you the chance to be more experimental and not really have to worry about wasting product. If I'm to improve with my digital artwork, I would have to think about it as something totally different. I would have to change the way that I think about art. If you made it this far in me rambling about different art techniques, then you might as well drop a like as well as subscribe to my channel. I said it before and I'll say it again, I'm so thankful for everyone who chose to support my channel as I'm just starting out with YouTube and Twitch. I never really thought that I would have a platform to share my art and my opinions about art, so I'm really thankful for anyone who chooses to support me. I don't take that lightly, and I want to improve so I can continue to deliver quality content, because right now I definitely don't feel like I have the skills that I want to have to continue to grow my community. And I have so many different plans for my content. Like I said, I want to make a PNG tuber model. I'm also wanting to make my own webcomic/webtoon series, The Bookkeeper's Daughter. So to do that, I definitely need to change my approach if I want to continue growing. I knew I had to change my approach on topics just to make long-form videos like I am now, because I mainly made TikToks and Instagram Reels before moving to YouTube. And that thinking sort of applies to digital art as well. Like I said before, I felt like I was holding back from doing certain projects because I just didn't have the skill. But with digital art, there's not really any consequence of misusing something. You can just simply delete it. In my case, the biggest issue was figuring out how to digitally color, because there's so many different ways to do it, with different brushes, layer settings. All that was kind of confusing to me. And trying to find and figure out someone else's style wasn't always clicking as well. I think one of the drivers of art block isn't necessarily not having ideas to draw, it usually is a lack of skill, or quote-unquote a skill issue. If I want to do the things that I mentioned, I have to have direction, and that often means that I need to go back and learn more about the fundamentals. I know I have these tools at my disposal, but I don't really want to make a habit into relying on them too much. Because I still like painting, I like doing traditional art, I don't want to completely change the way that I work. In order to get better at digital art, I need to study things like color theory or values. Coloring something digitally will definitely look a lot different than a painting in a sketchbook or a canvas, and that's been something that I've been struggling with, like I said. I could try to copy others, but like I said, that didn't always lead to me learning how to do something on my own. While, like I said, it is important to learn about the fundamentals, I definitely don't think I've been as experimental as I could be with my digital art. I'm the type of person that likes texture and details in my traditional artwork, and it's kind of hard to capture that digitally. I mainly use watercolors traditionally, but when it comes to digital artwork, I can't stand watercolor brushes. But even with all these high-tech programs and AI, none of them can really replicate the flow of a watercolor tube, or pan, and it was foolish of me to expect otherwise. I think another thing that was tripping me up was just seeing all those finished digital art pieces that looked super polished, and wondering why my own artwork didn't look like that. I fell into the dangerous trap of comparing myself to other artists who've been doing it for a lot longer time than me. That said, this discovery of mine hasn't been all doom and gloom. There's actually been some good coming out of it. I recently signed up for some art courses, and I want to do those on stream on twitch.tv/iasuna19. I just need to figure out a way on how to do that without getting into trouble. and I want to turn my learning process into videos if I can do so. Replicating someone else's workflow wasn't going to work because I'm not them, and they're not me, and I can't expect to get the same results if I try to copy everything that they do. I need to do the work to study color theory and value, as well as perspective, as that's really important in digital artwork, or really any artwork. These are skills that I neglected to do because of laziness or just not having enough time, but I'm tired of making excuses. This is something that I want to pursue, and I want to take the steps to actually do so. Not only is there the art aspect of digital art, there's also the digital component. And that includes learning different software, different shortcuts, the graphic tablets that you use, pretty much everything from scratch. Now, I like to keep things simple. I don't really like to have too many layers in my digital art process, at least not yet. But I imagine if I used like 100 or so different layers, my computer probably wouldn't like that too much. So my own hardware is something else I need to consider when I do digital art too. I think I was trying to go too hard, too fast, trying to make finished pieces. I wasn't really doing enough doodling and experimenting. Now I could just give up digital art and say it's too hard or I just don't want to learn, but I know I definitely won't improve that way. Ultimately, powering through and practicing is the only way to improve any sort of skill. And like I said, that extends well beyond art. So some things that I am thinking about is, like I said, I signed up for more art courses. I'm also thinking about getting a screen protector that looks and feels like paper to help me in my process. But if any other talented digital artists have any tips for me, then please let me know down in the comments. I really wanted to make this video because I think it's important to actually go and talk about the mindset, as it can really show in your artwork, whether you want it to or not. I believe it's important to be honest about what we are going through in our lives as far as how it affects our artwork, and this mental block is just something I've recently been thinking a lot about and think I may have found the resolution for. Like, I know digital art may be hard at first, but it does get better. I remember when I first started digital art, it took me hours just to do a simple head, and now I can do a reasonably sized illustration within about a few hours, at least sketching concerned. So naturally, the next thing that I need to tackle is value and color theory, because I do want to get in touch with all these different brushes. I just have to learn the techniques and how to do so. I want to do live streams where I talk about trying different brushes and just doodling and seeing what I like and don't like, and I can use what I learned in future reference. I want to talk about the things that I learned from my courses because that can be helpful to other artists who are in a similar mindset as I was. And if you're interested in that type of content, then don't hesitate to subscribe to my channel and stay on the lookout for more live streams and videos just like this. I hope this is just the beginning of my digital art journey, and I'm really excited to see where I'll go in a month from now, or even just in a year from now. I think this outlook is something that I really need to get in my head, and I'm glad that I did. So until then, take care and goodbye. And enjoy the rest of the video of me drawing Momo from Dandadan, one of the series that I recently got into, and I'm glad that I did because I really enjoyed the artwork from this series. Here I took the time to use a different line art pen that I wasn't exactly the most familiar with, and you'll see towards the end of the video.